Uh-oh, we gotta go live again.
We're live, baby.
All right, we are live. All right, everybody, welcome back to Everything to Gain. This is episode 15.
15.
15. Oh, and I put episode 14 on the bottom there. I should probably change that, right?
Rocking. Who cares?
I should probably change that. But anyway, everybody, welcome to episode 15 of Everything to Gain. My name is Dan Yu, your co-host, alongside my partner in crime.
Mark Angelos.
What's happening, Mark? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Nice to be back at it.
Nice to be back at it. Yeah, you had a good summer.
Summer was great. Loved it. Could take all year of it, to be honest with you. I guess they call that Florida.
Right? You can't complain about the weather, during the summertime, and the kids are out, right? So got to do something with them. So
Never thought I'd be happy to see my kids go back to school. Honestly, I love having them around, but man, as an entrepreneur, you don't get much done.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, today, to kick off our first episode back from summer break, we're going to go over some trends that we have been watching over the summer since our last episode. Some of the trends in work life, in careers, and I think one of the first ones that you and I have both noticed is the momentum really shifting potentially back to the employer, right? So
for those who aren't aware, the post-COVID lockdown, everyone knows that the employees held the power. That is going back to the employers now are taking control. Like you're seeing this momentum shift in the creator economy. A lot of folks are thinking about going back to work. In the work world, a lot of folks are being forced back into the office. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I find the latest return to office kind of kerfuffle was when the Starbucks CEO, who's the new Starbucks CEO, right?
That's great.
So he's going to use the corporate plane, right, to go from his home, I think it's like in Southern California, to commute up to Seattle.
You did that on Wall Street, though, didn't you, when you were in Jersey?
Of course, yeah. I got the plane from Jersey back into Manhattan. Of course,
the corporate plane. That's a real commute for work, right? The corporate plane in. That's great.
Yeah. It's like taking the New Jersey Transit, right? It's sitting on the bus, right? Just same thing.
Yeah, all the questions around what the work practices that people always took as normal. Then there was all of a sudden, why are we doing this? And now we're starting to swing back towards, guess what? You got to do it.
Right. And so going back to the office, right, is actually LinkedIn's top story today, right? Is FaceTime at work necessary? And the survey, I have the stats right in front of me here. The recent survey said 48% overall say it's necessary to get promoted. So having that FaceTime. Now, it kind of depends on which group of people. So 57% of people who are already on site every day, they say it's necessary. 51% of hybrid workers say it's necessary, and 29% of remote, right? So you have like this difference of opinion, but it depends on who you are kind of relative to everybody else. So overall, but 48% believe that it's necessary to have FaceTime to get ahead.
Can I opine here? The reality is how humans operate. If they know you're there, that you have a better chance of being promoted. Period.
Yep.
The question is whether this should be the case is a different story. But if you're looking to get ahead in your career and you're not in the office, you're not getting ahead in your career.
You may not be, right? And it brings up the EQ over IQ, right? So I talk about EQ over IQ all the time, and there's of course there's going to be people who think that my work is good enough; it should stand on its own, right? But as we know. Right.
I once had a wise old gentleman tell me when I was on Wall Street, 50% of your day should be managing your career, right? Like it's not.
I wonder who that was.
Yeah, it was Dano. It's not as simple as you do a good job and they notice it. They do a good job is the table stakes, and then it's what kind of person are you? How do you integrate with the group?
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way, right? It didn't matter if I was doing a good job, and even relative to all of my peers, right? And still got laid off, right? Back in the day, but that's because work is a human thing, right? And it's not just EQ for yourself, but it's understanding that your audience also has EQ towards you. So you have to help their empathy and their EQ along in many ways, being present. Now, whether it's in person or it's on more Zoom calls, I think being present is the key thing for for your growth, especially within the corporate world.
Then you mentioned layoffs. That's another factor here. That is a trend that we're seeing, right? You've gotten laid off. I've gotten laid off. God knows how many times. That there's a growing, unfortunately, trend of large companies laying off. PwC was yesterday, I think. You've got
Yeah,
Oracle,
yeah,
Microsoft, Xbox. There's a huge
yeah.
list, and that
Usually.
seems to be more and more the case now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so with layoffs, right? I mean, and we can talk about the reasons of layoffs in a second, but I think the risk that you have for being completely remote and not present, right? And
Higher.
not memorializing, right? Or even just you might even want to call it marketing, right? Marketing yourself,
It's internal. It's personal branding internally.
personal branding internally. That's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. Um, I also found it interesting that the salaries for entry level employees is trending higher,
So
right?
let's
So
talk about that.
yeah, so like B of A, right? They're saying they're going to pay $24 an hour for basic jobs. I just saw this morning Aldi, the supermarket chain, they're going to pay $23 an hour for minimum wage, right? So the competition for that entry level person is ramping up.
Where do these higher salaries go? It doesn't end there. That is just the beginning of the story. The
That's
whole
right.
purpose of a company is to be profitable. And unfortunately, the reality is the number one cost to them is the employee. So when these employee costs go higher, what do they turn to?
They're going to find other places to cut costs.
It used to be they would go overseas and find cheaper laborers that they could outsource. They don't need to do that anymore. Now they can just plug into the LLM.
That's right. And they're going to use AI, which then brings us to our next topic. So, trends in AI, right? So, just yesterday, OpenAI, they launched their reasoning model,
Strawberry?
Strawberry, right? So, interesting, right? That now OpenAI has a model that can think like a person. Where do you think this is going?
Yeah. I mean, so agentic workflows, for those who haven't heard the term, is you have a series of AIs that make decisions the way a person would, and eventually you're approximating a human's capability through machinery. That whether or not you buy into this, that's where it's going. This the whole concept of AI that can now almost replace laborers. We're seeing at the low end, right? The entry level jobs, or you're competing with machinery now. And so I think that this is something you need to start thinking about. If you're in business for yourself, like we're doing, you need to figure out, do I need to hire an employee? How can I agent my work? If
Right.
you're in a role, you have to be like, okay, I have to recognize the reality that I need to bring a value beyond my labor.
Right, right, and this goes back to being present, right? It's all this one big topic here. So we have OpenAI with their new reasoning model. We had another news item just yesterday. Mastercard,
Oh yeah.
they bought Recorded Future, which for 2.7 billion. It is an AI company that detects when accounts are compromised. So it's a fintech company, and it's in the fraud prevention, right? So that's another example of massive investment going into AI. Right now, this is prevention, but it's still going into AI. Now, will that replace some of the people that are actually doing the fraud prevention and fraud investigation at
100%.
MasterCard? Doing more with
100%.
less, right? Doing more with less.
I don't. We'll. This will get brighter later, guys. So hang tight because we were just setting the stage here. But the reality is, there's a lot of things that are working against the employee right now in the work world.
Yeah, absolutely. But now even we've also noticed just in the past couple months, right? Even AI companies are laying off, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Well, if you're not making profit, you know we know how Wall Street works.
yeah. So what was the one that you mentioned? Klarna?
Oh, Klarna, right? So Klarna was a payments company out of is it Switzerland, Sweden?
Switzerland, Sweden. It's over
Yeah, no,
there.
it's Sweden, and they maybe almost 7 or 8 months ago, they said that they were going to try to they just outright own this. They want to go IPO, and they said we're going to try to reduce our workforce using AI, and they've been doing that. They now claim that one AI does the work of 700 employees internally, and with that, they can start to figure out the numbers they
That's
need.
crazy.
Yeah, and
That's crazy.
this is the model, unfortunately.
Right. So with them as well as all of these other big companies, I'll just list off some that I just found yesterday: Dropbox, Duolingo, Dell, Cisco, Price Waterhouse, Tesla, Amazon, Google, TikTok, Snap, Microsoft. Just this year, right?
Layoffs.
All layoffs, right? Um, Scale AI, right? Scale
Yeah.
AI laid off 1,000, and they're an AI company, right? So it's like Klarna, Scale AI. So even the AI companies that have been hiring, now they're letting go of people.
So there's repercussions from all this, right? There's things that will happen on the back end of this, and this growth of AI and the layoffs, et cetera. It means, as I mentioned before, number one, entry level roles. Now you have to consider yourself for the mid level roles. You better be qualified for this because if they can entry level role as an AI, they're not going to hire you. So the folks who have 10 years plus experience probably okay for a while more. But the reality is the bar's been raised for entry level. Number two, the career concept, in my opinion, is over. Like if you're encroaching the technology to eat away people's careers, you're not just going to work for the same company for 20 years. We've known that. So the concept of a career means you have to set your own long-term goals now because the company's career path for you doesn't exist. And number three, I think this leads to the rise of a one-person business. Call it entrepreneurship, call it what you want. It also drives a new need for education, re-education, pivoting, whatever you want to call it. But these are the outcomes of AI's encroachment.
All right, so let's go over the first one. So go over
So
the first outcome of
entry
AI.
level, I
Entry
think
level, right? So
in the
entry level employees,
no,
right?
I'm going to speak directly to the kids coming out of college, right? If you're just fresh out of university and they can potentially get a machine to do with at your skill levels, that's tough to find a new role.
So where does that college student or the recent grad, what do they have to do? I think they have to really develop their EQ skills, right? So an AI, we don't think will ever be as human as a human, right? So really understanding EQ
I don't know about that.
having empathy, right? So I think it'd be a good idea for all college students to take a psychology class,
Yeah.
right?
So
You know,
the eternal skills of psychology, sales, marketing, writing, these types of things, like I know the machines can do that. You want to be able to know it yourself because you're gonna have to prompt these things. I think that the ability for people to build connections becomes more important in an AI world. And I don't just mean digital connection. I'm talking like IRL. I'm going to stick my neck out for this guy because I really like him, or girl. I'm going to hire her because she's the one of us. That type of thing becomes more important in a world where you're not going to win on just your labor. There has to be something more to you.
so the idea of this career is changing, right? So the outcomes of AI. Number two, you mentioned entrepreneurship.
Number two is I believe the career is over. The traditional career. My dad worked for John Hancock Life Insurance for 30 years. Right. My wife's dad worked for the New York Fire Department for 30 years. Those days are over. Like you're not my
The
kids.
traditional long-term career in one company. It's over.
Right.
I think it's been over for quite a while, actually.
Right. The IBM company man thing from the 50s, forget it. So
Yeah.
then now it becomes, and you know this, I certainly did my share of hopscotching around Wall Street. It sucks that the companies don't take care of their people and you make more money by switching jobs. So that's the model. But that has led to now, well, there's no loyalty on that behalf of the companies, no loyalty on behalf of the employees. So now it's just a game of, okay, what am I really doing with my life? Yeah, I can make money. I can spin up courses online, whatever I want to do. But what's the real long-term goal? We have to all chart our own long-term path now. Like
Right.
sit down and say, I know it's going to change, but what directional am I going in?
Well, you need to take control, right? And it's not just taking control of your present, but it's also taking control of your future, right? So, how are you going to set up, right? And whether it's continuing to go the path of having security versus independence and freedom, it's still you still need to take control, right? And it's taking the right courses, it's taking the right continuing education, right? So, getting those skills, right? And putting yourself in a position so that you can make a pivot when you need to.
I know that I'm selling my own book here a little bit, but I kind of believe this leads to the rise of the one person business, solopreneur, entrepreneur. I'm not saying it's the path for everyone. It's not. But there's
It's
going to
hard.
be a lot of folks, you and I are probably one of them, Dano, that are just like, you know what? I'm skilled up enough in this one area. I can make a living doing this. And that leads to the education piece because no solopreneur is going to be the equivalent of a company. Like you're going to need to know things.
You're gonna need to learn things, right? You need to hack things with technology, potentially AI. So leveraging AI so that you can set yourself up. And ultimately, I think a lot of people now are really discovering the different tools they can leverage, right? So that ripping the band-aid off of leaving your safe corporate job and starting a business is not going to be as painful,
No.
right? So
So I think of all the stuff I didn't know when I started almost 5 years ago. It was like how to build an offer, how to price it, how to content strategy. Like these are things that people need to learn if they want to do their own thing. And if you don't want to do your own thing, that's okay too. You can make your career. You still need to know about personal branding, stacking skills, like being prepped for what's happening out there is not just a matter of keeping your head down and hoping your company doesn't have layoffs.
right, and so we can also point to maybe probably the decade and a half ago, kind of the rise of the side hustle, right, was kind of the first foray, right, that people were still in their corporate job or their job, but they were experimenting, right, and learning, and I think that's a good way to at least dip your toe in if you're not sure, right?
Yeah.
Test out your ideas, right? Test out your product, test out your service, whatever that may be. I mean, there's so many different ways we can go with this, right? There's being a consultant, right? So being a consultant in your area of expertise to the company that might need it. That's one.
So for those who this is something I just recently was playing around with, Dan. I haven't shared this with you yet. If you're thinking of side hustling and maybe spinning it into something legit, or you're new in entrepreneurship, for example, either way, map it out at what's the nth degree of the thing you're thinking about. Like, what does it look like at scale if you had 100, offices doing what you're doing right now,
Offices, what?
or whatever? Like, if you own the
Return
thing,
to office? Come on, Mark.
I feel like part of what we're taking control of our lives now, if that's what you're determining it as, and I like that, means okay, I'm going to envision a future where I am in control of my life. I'm making a huge amount of money, and this is what it looks like. You got to paint in those pictures, otherwise, people are just you can't just make it from year to year for payouts now.
And so what's another way that people can approach starting
So
out,
a good middle ground bridge. Our friend Tom is doing this, helping people set up in franchising. Right?
right?
You
Our good
can
friend Tom McCarthy, shout out. Tom McCarthy, how you doing?
That's none of these are the right one, but there's the right one for you. Entrepreneurship, franchising,
Right.
consulting. There's a lot of ways to go, and maybe you're not ready yet, so you're side hustling to figure it out. That's fine too. The point is, you got to be doing something. Folks who aren't in motion right now are setting themselves up for failure later because technology is not going backwards.
Yeah, ultimately, we have to diversify how we make our money, right? And everyone's got, well, I'm not saying everyone, but most people have an investment account or 401k. Well, you're not going to put it all into one basket, right? You can do the same thing with how you make money, right?
Right.
Every day. And so diversify how you make your money and maybe have one, two, three side hustles. I actually know somebody that has a credit card swipe business, right? So they actually refer, and it's just a referral business. They refer credit card swiping to all of the retail businesses that are in their town, and it's
Yeah.
great. They make a little bit of money every month, right? By every time that there's a swipe. So there's different things you can do.
I want to tie this for those who didn't see the story. I want to say this is 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, co-founder,
Yes.
had an article that Finance Yahoo has a link. We can drop it if you need. But basically, he was predicting the death of the 9 to 5 within a few years. Right? He was saying that it's going to become a thing of the past. It's partly because of AI, mostly because people are making more money in their side hustles than they were from companies. It was easier to have multiple side hustles and stack that than it was to just be a regular line item employee. So I won't take a position on it. Obviously, I opted for entrepreneurship. You know where I sit. But the reality is people are questioning, how do I make my money now? Can I make more in a different way? And Dan, to your point, what you just said, you need to have multiple streams.
You gotta have multiple streams. Ultimately, you have to de-risk, right? Or maybe we call it future proof. So
Heard that somewhere before.
future proofing, yeah. So and then wasn't there an article by that talked about Babson College?
Oh yeah, Babson College, for those who didn't see this, just did a poll. It was some data they put out around how many Americans are starting businesses today. Like right now, 2024, 20% of all Americans are in the middle of starting a business or already have. This is a record high, and the numbers are still growing. So people's unhappiness with their work situations, and we are in a recession. Let's not make, let's be honest. So the pay isn't there, but people are taking a shot. You've got a lot of people, again, Dan, you and I are poster children for this, who are like, you know what? I I know personally for me, I'd rather fail at my own hand than work at Lehman Brothers and find out that some idiot made a mistake and we're all out of business. I was at Barclays. We had a
Wait,
record year.
you were there.
I was there. I was at Barclays in a record year for the equity world when they were like, yeah, right at bonus time. Sorry, guys, but the fixed income desk really blew up this year. So we're all one firm. Sorry, no bonus. So when you go through things where you're like, as an older guy, I'm like, I can probably do better myself here. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but Babson put their finger on it. A lot of people are taking that chance.
So entrepreneurship, what are some of the things that people can do?
So we had a conversation yesterday, Dan and I, and it came down to why do some people do entrepreneurship and some don't? And this is my theory. I could be wrong, but this is a personality led thing. I believe that if you're either driven by one of two different, important guiding lights in your life, it's either security, in which case you want the structure, you want the security of knowing a regular paycheck, and you don't want the hassle of having to scare up business. It's a different set of stress, believe me. Or independence, call it freedom, call it whatever you want to call it, but like the ability, the autonomy of running your own life comes with the risk of you may have a month of not getting paid. You have to go chase your own business. You have to wear every hat in the firm, chief cook and bottle washer. That's not for everyone. Just like being yelled at for 30 years, after a while, I was like, I've had enough of this. Not for me. So, if you're a security oriented folk or if you're a freedom oriented, like it matters, identify that for yourself. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. It's the one that fits you best is the one you should be going after, but recognize who you are.
Right, and recognize that you don't have to do everything yourself, right? You can hack things. I mean, Fiverr was a thing for a long time, right? Using Fiverr to help build your website, but now you can actually use AI to do all that stuff, right? You can actually use AI for so many things that should be able to hack a lot of the challenges that you may have as an entrepreneur. So
Which ties back to your earlier comment about education, Dan. Right?
yeah, I mean, YouTube's the greatest university on the planet, right? I mean,
I would argue YouTube is single-handedly responsible for this slow death by 1,000 cuts we're seeing of the university level college education. The
that's
creator economy. What's that?
that's a different episode.
Yeah, we'll get into it later. But like, I think that there's an educational piece of content that people are turning towards and is opening doors for people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. If I want to know how to replace a faucet on my sink, do I call a plumber or do I look at YouTube first? Well, I'm going to look at YouTube first, right? And it actually worked. I actually did it,
So
which is
a couple months ago, I'm down in Florida and I got to do the long drive back up to New Jersey, which Danny, you remember this. And the headlight goes out one evening. I got to leave the next day for this like 1,300-mile drive. And I'm like, All right, I stop at a Napa Auto Parts store at 4:30 in the afternoon, and they're closing at 5. But I got some daylight. I'm in the parking lot, and I'm like, I'm just gonna bang this out right now. I can't get up in the morning and change headlights when I'm packing. And what do? Phone, YouTube, how to change the headlight on a
Was it an
Toyota.
H11? Was it an H11 bulb?
You have to see these bulbs, by the way. They were like, the xenon bulbs were $130. I'm like, what? Anyway, 5 minutes later, my bulbs changed. I'm in the parking lot, throw it all out with the box. I'm like, okay, good to go. That would have never happened in 1980. I'd have been back
Right.
there with a Chilton trying to figure out where's the stupid screw hole.
All right. So, we have more shows coming. We do have more shows coming where we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. So thanks everyone to join today. But as a quick plug, both Mark and I are creating coursework. We're creating coursework to attack your future, right? To help you attack your future. I think you should just follow Mark at where should people follow you, Mark?
Probably LinkedIn, best for me. Mark Angelos, LinkedIn. Invictus is the company, invictus.com. I'm not here to pitch, but my goal here is to write content every day to help people learn how to use content to grow your business, whether that's inside a company or outside.
Excellent. All right. And everybody can follow me at Dan OU right there at Dan OU on most social platforms, including LinkedIn. I'll be making some big announcements pretty soon about the new schools that and classes that I'm building around careers, around new skills that we're building, and love to introduce that in a future episode. So
quick shout out there real fast, Dano. Beautiful Nonsense drops in the chat here. Very thoughtful, thought-provoking episode. That is what we're trying to do here, folks. The whole idea is that we believe, and the whole concept behind E2G, there's a lot of change afoot, faster than it's ever happened before, and people don't know what to do. And we're not necessarily telling you this is what you need to do, but either way, you need education, right? So you got to figure out what's best for you. But whatever path you choose, you got to start skilling up. And that didn't used to be the case. You didn't have to worry about that. And now you do. If you want to be independent one way or another, you need to start stacking skills.
Even if you don't need to be independent, if you still want to get another job, you still need to know what's the best way of attacking that dynamic, right?
But I might want to choose to become
control.
If I want to be independent, Dan, through multiple streams of income, one of which is a corporate job, there's nothing wrong with that. I still need to know. Like when I was in corporate, they never taught us anything at Wall Street, all 30 years, about a sales funnel, right? Marketing content. That wasn't something that you needed to know in corporate. I launched my own company and you did too. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a crap I don't know about business. I thought I knew what I was doing. So I'm just saying, if you stay in business and you're competing with AIs, if you go off on your own and you start your own thing, either way, you got to skill up, which is why we're seeing the growth of these communities. These communities aren't because people want friends. It's because people need education.
They need education, right? Right.
So,
it's all about putting yourself in a position to have potential success.
Yeah,
right? That's what it boils down to. So,
right. Also,
by the way,
I
want to thank Beautiful Nonsense again coming across our YouTube Live at E2G Show on YouTube Live. Their comment is, agree, we all have to be agile. We may have to get ready for jobs that don't even exist yet. That is a terrific, terrific point. We actually discussed that a few episodes ago, but we will bring it up again because there was a study done by the World Economic Forum. I believe it was in 2018, 2019. And they said by 2030, 90% of the jobs in 2030, which is only 4.5 years away, 5 years away, right? It's they haven't been invented yet. So 90% of the jobs in 5 years haven't been invented yet. And that was going back about 5-6 years, right? So
for those who remember before prompt engineering, right? When was prompt engineering a job? Like 2 years ago?
Barely 2 years ago.
Not even. So
Not
here's
even.
Here's a 30-second story or less. I took my family into the Georgia Aquarium a couple of years ago. It was you could go like in the scuba tank with the big animals, and we come out and then you got to get changed. We'd been snorkeling, that's what it was, and rip off money, but whatever. And then they bang you for $50 more if you want. Here's the video of your family for the 20 minutes you were underwater. It's set to music. It's all good to go. And I'm kind of taken aback because my kids want it, and I'm like, where did this video come from? oh, there's a scuba guy down there who films while you're down there, and then while you're getting changed, they edit it up and they put the thing out. It did just 10 minutes. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a job. And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, I'm interested in scuba diving and music production, which my kid was interested in. So I turned to my son, who at the time was probably 15, and I'm like, this is what's going to happen with you when you get out of college. Like the job you're going to do, whatever it is, doesn't exist yet. And same with everyone listening right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a great thing. I understand it might be daunting, but understanding that the math type of jobs that are out there, a lot of them are going to go away, right? So a lot of them are going to be eliminated by AI. Right? So
Here's why it's not daunting. Dan, it's not daunting. If you don't love your job right now, it's a fantastic opportunity, right? You want something that that fits you better. This is your chance. This is your moment.
Your chance, right? 100%, right? And I think for a lot of people, being the first movers is going to be key. Being the first mover to whatever that new thing is. So if you have an idea, get after it. So
there you go.
All right.
Another
episode of Everything to Gain. Please follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow me at Dan OU right over there. Dan OU on LinkedIn.
I'm Mark Angelos NYC, if anyone cares. The reality is we're here every week to try to shine a spotlight on things you can be doing to build the life you want.
Yeah, and we're all about making positive changes, right? That's what we're here about. Tune in next week. We will be back with another episode. We'll be announcing what's going on next week. But thanks again for joining us. We're either on LinkedIn or at Twitch at E2G Show or on YouTube live at E2G Show. So, Marky Mark, you have a great weekend.
Dan OU, back at you.
Yeah.